All right, I would like to welcome everyone to the CCWD board meeting of September 27th. Would you all please rise and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Where's the audio? No audio out here. We always have audio issues when it comes to things like this.
Okay. Stand by. It should be there now.
It's here.
Can you hear us now, Scott?
Yes.
Okay. All right. As usual, we were reminding people to work through staff to place items.
Audio's gone again. What's up with the audio, man? This is weird. Man, you're gonna have to start all over because this audio is horrible.
You ready? Scott, can you hear me?
That's not.
That's not
Yes,
Scott.
I can hear you guys talking. They can't hear us in the boardroom. I just sent a text to Rebecca.
No, we can hear you fine, Scott.
We can hear you now. We couldn't hear you earlier during roll call, Director Radaman.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, no, I've been here. Your audio's gone on and off. On at least online. I heard Russ started to talk and then didn't finish the end of it and haven't heard anything since until your comment right there, Michael.
Rebecca said that somebody's hitting mute all.
Okay. I think it's working now, so we'll proceed. We have a public comment in person here.
Okay.
Go ahead, Carl.
Very good. Okay, here we go. Good extra time for that. As some of you may know, I ran for the water board in 1978. I mean, 98. 78 would be not that old. I was a young kid. I was in my 20s. I lost the election, but won the girl. And I was very happy. We're still friends, and I haven't seen hide or hair of that water board member since then. You know, a lot of my, I really have to thank staff. Damon back here has been doing a great job. He's working on some fire hydrants, and fire is one of my main concerns. You know, I've lived through the Butte fire, but I also lived through the Oakland firestorm. I have vivid recollections of friends, smoke, cars trying to get down winding streets, and just a horrific experience. So anything that alleviates that concern for me, that helps me with that, I appreciate. Luckily, the matter won't be going before the board. It'll be just it's just filling in some fire hydrants that were missed during the initial construction of the system, and that will do the community a lot of good. And I have to thank you for that. that you've hired such good people, really good people.
Thank you.
When I have a little more time, maybe I should mention the recall. It's nice to have people that dislike other people more than they dislike me. I constantly get criticism for my opinions on how things should be run. And some of those come in personal emails. People have no qualms about spreading my email out to people that are angry. But I think you guys should weather this pretty well. I mean, you didn't do too bad of a job. You didn't do too bad of a job. And I do appreciate you as people. I'm not going to criticize you.
Could you repeat? I didn't quite hear that. So.
I do appreciate you as people.
Oh, okay. That's good to hear.
It's up to the voters though. And they'll make this final decision, but I'll keep in touch. Even when Russ was not on any board, I called him once in a while. Bertha, I see you once in a while. Cindy, I hope to, if things don't work out here, you know,
Thank you.
I'll still be
Your
around.
confidence.
Boards come and go. I'm always here.
Yeah.
I'm doing the best I can, everybody.
Okay, Carlos. By the way, next time you come up, you have about 20 seconds left on your account. So, okay. Any other public comments? If you are online and would like to make a public comment, could you please push the button that raises your hand and we'll acknowledge you. There's one. Somebody that has the initial F.
That would be Fernando. I wanted to thank the board for their attention and dedication to doing a good job. Thank you, Bertha Underhill, for remembering me. And we couldn't make it in person today, but we wanted to thank the board and the committee for their work yesterday on getting CCWD metrics going. Thanks again.
We appreciated you being here.
Yes.
Anyone else wishing to make a comment online? Okay. I think it's safe to move on to this item number 3, consent agenda. We have items 3A, B, and C, starting with the report on monthly investment transactions for August 2023. 3B is a review of the board of directors' monthly timesheets for August 2023. And 3C is to ratify the claim summary number 618, Secretarial Fund, in the amount of $3,601,087.89.
And I'd like to pull 3C.
All right. Do we have a motion on 3A and B?
Move for
So
acceptance
moved.
on 3A and B.
Okay, that was a motion for
Yeah.
A and B. Okay. Would you take the roll on that?
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Cicada,
Yes.
Director Thomas.
I'm a yes on that as well. All right, going to item 3C. This is ratify the claim summary, and we have Jeff Meyer.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board. I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay. And I realize that I didn't get to you beforehand. So if you want to come back to me on any of these, that would be great.
Certainly.
I would like to talk about our 2023 scholarship award, and that's on page number 2, because I'm really don't know where we are as far as our scholarships. Are we still paying for last year, or this was to Veda Casillas,
I'm sorry, what page was that on again?
page 2.
Page 2. This is for the fiscal year 22-23.
So we're
A little bit behind, yeah.
Mhm. Okay.
It's what was awarded, but sometimes they don't request it until later on.
Oh, okay.
But we can I can work with Kelly R. to go ahead and maybe come back to your board or external affairs or whomever would be best to report this out to, is to give you a summary of our scholarships over the last several years.
That might be nice, but we did have, the scholarship winners come in and.
Yes.
So that's what I was a little confused about.
And sometimes they'll wait until they get ready to go to school.
Okay, that's all right. Okay, I'm looking at page number 4. We have a transaction for legal services, 751520 to Hanson Bridget. And that's a new name.
That's Dave Cameron's new firm.
Oh. Okay, well, that's something that we won't forget. Not we won't. Dave Cameron. Okay. Page number 5. I'm looking at a vehicle repair, and I asked about this, and Jesse said he thought it was the crane. Where are you, Jesse? Oh, there you are. A backhoe. You want?
Yeah, sure.
So this was a repair on the new VACON that we have in Copperopolis on the metal at the 90 of the intake pipe blew out just from use. And so it had to be repaired.
Oh,
And that was a $16,000 item.
49.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay, because my question was, isn't it still under warranty or no?
That portion of it was not, no. We ended up having a thicker piece of metal welded onto the 90. So yeah, originally the VACON, the 90 was a thinner piece of plate. And so considering the amount of use that we put it through, we opted to have a thicker piece put on.
Okay. Because I, have in my mind about the fact that everything's on lease and,
Right.
that should be covered, but
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
that would
have
be,
it. Exception.
Different. This is a different, yeah, we're paying for that in a different manner, right?
okay.
that's a wear item, much
That-
same family as tires.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. That's all I have.
Okay, since we're don't go away just yet. I had a couple of things that I would pique my interest as well. On this, on page 4 of 8, near the top of the page, VACON 1 principal and interest payment, VACON 2 principal and interest payment. Both of those are pretty hefty payments. But tell me about that. Is that a quarterly payment or an annual payment, or what's going on with that?
Actually, I need to double check, but I believe it's quarterly.
Okay,
So, because we have a short-term loan on that.
all right. So that it would be 10,000 a month or something like that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And that vehicle repair is 16.7. You must have rebuilt the entire engine. Is that reasonable to?
What
assume?
page are you on?
Yes, so that is the old VACON. Yeah,
Oh.
and that's a complete overhaul. Vehicle 135.
Mhm.
Yeah, vintage 2014 VACON. Yes,
2014.
right. Yeah.
Okay. That's the electric one?
I can make that one.
Conversion.
Okay. That'll be in the neighborhood of 116,000, I bet. Okay, Bertha, did you get your questions answered?
Yes, I'm through.
Okay, you want to make a motion then?
Oh, I make a motion to approve item 3C. I'll second it.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. Would you please call the roll?
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Cicada,
Yes.
Director Thomas.
I'm a yes on that too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Okay.
Director Thomas, before we move on, can I make a statement?
Uh,
No.
can I pull the board on that? No,
No.
go ahead. Go ahead, Scott.
Okay, I meant to start, my mic was not working at the beginning of the meeting, but I meant to read this as to why I'm attending remotely under the 2023 Brown Act, new Brown Act rules under the provision of AB 2449. I am attending remotely under just cause while traveling on official business. I'm at the Aqua JPIA office in Roseville. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
All right, glad you cleared that up. That's good. Thanks for representing us there. Okay, moving on to item number 4, new business. We have 4A. We have recognition of Chris Zanardi for 34 years of service at the district. Can we have Damon come talk about that?
Thank you, Director Thomas and members of the board. It's my pleasure to read to you, Chris, this resolution for your 34 years of service here at CCWD. I mean, it's pretty spectacular. I mean, you've done a heck of a lot of work here. We go way back, as do you with most folks here and members of the board. And so I'll just jump in. A resolution of the Board of Directors of the Calaveras County Water District recognizing Christopher Zanardi. Whereas Christopher, better known as Chris Zanardi, has faithfully served the ratepayers of the Calaveras County Water District, known as CCWD or the district, for an astounding 34 years. And whereas Chris now holds the title of the longest serving CCWD employee. Yeah. And whereas Chris became a CCWD employee on September 18th, 1989, hired as a maintenance worker 1/meter reader, and continued to work as a maintenance worker through May 15th, 2005. Whereas on May 16th, 2005, Chris was promoted to a newly created position of supervising heavy vehicle / equipment operator, currently known as a senior construction worker. And whereas during Chris's employment with the district, he served as the SEIU Local 1021 chapter president for the district employees for many years. And whereas Chris became a respected mentor to the less experienced field crew members and a local ambassador for CCWD. And whereas Chris is known for his need for food doused in ketchup, love of motorcycles, and his newfound desire to travel to Belize. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Calaveras County Water District and all coworkers hereby wish Chris all the best into retirement.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, I spent 34 years here. It's been a long journey and I appreciate everything that this district's done for me. This has been the best manager I've worked for in my career here. Michael's been a great general manager and a good friend and everything else around. And I just really enjoyed my job here and I hate to leave. So, and thank the Board of Directors for being here. I've been with most of you guys for Bertha and Jeff the longest, but it's been a great career with you guys and I really appreciate my employment here. So now it ends.
Well,
Thank you very much.
Well, Chris, have they explained to you about the way that the retired annuitant system works? I mean, you could come back in a few months and work for 1,000 hours. So how are we going to function without this guy?
Well, the next supervisor to take my place, Roger Tyndall. He's very knowledgeable. So he's a good person to take that position. So they did well there.
What's his name?
Roger Tyndall.
Okay.
So he's got it together. So he'll be fine.
But we can depend on you to check on him and make sure he's doing a good job. Okay.
My
Yeah.
phone is always on this question. Yeah.
He's got CCWD water in his blood, so. come on.
And one thing, Michael, one of my deals here, I spent years on that slurry line and finally Michael got that thing going. We finally started serving people on that. And that was an accomplishment here. So.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Chris.
Just
We've-
say something.
Oh, and then I want to say something.
You know.
Good.
We've already hugged and everything, but because Chris again, goes back a few years. But I asked if there was something that Chris really enjoyed, and so I'm bringing you a token of.
And Laura.
Favorite. Oh.
I'll have it done by the time I get home.
Well, Chris, I just want to say real quick, the district's counted on you for a long time. I could always count on you to pull me aside and give me your honest assessment or feedback, which I've always really appreciated. And fortunately, I know where to find you going forward. So I'm sure you won't hold back in the future either. But yeah, it's just been great getting to know you and getting to work with you here. And yeah, it's a loss for the district, but thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you. My phone's always open.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Well, Chris, before you leave, I got a couple words, just some words of appreciation, and wanted to thank you very much for your years of service and helping this district. I have never heard a bad word about you or from you regarding things going on here. You're a value asset, and you're gonna be missed. But I anticipate I will see you around the county, and look forward to having a beer with you. Thank you very much.
I'll be available. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chris. Sure. Who's here? Okay. There you go. Yeah.
Thank you.
$34 years, that's awesome. Yeah.
Gee whiz.
Okay, can I make the motion to approve the?
Oh, yeah, we
We forgot that part.
we forgot that part, but
Uh-huh.
Go for it,
let's
Bertha.
take
I'd
up.
like to make a motion to approve the recognition of Chris Zanardi for 34 years of service at
I'll-
CCWD.
I'll second that. You just kept talking.
Okay,
Well,
Okay, we have-
Cindy, sometimes.
we have a motion and a second. Would you please call the roll?
Okay. Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Cicada,
Yes.
Director Thomas.
Yes. All right, let's go on to 4B. We have a hydrologic conditions update from Brad Arnold.
Hi, Brad.
Hello,
I
Brad.
appreciate the.
Yeah, good
input on
afternoon.
That would have been awkward to have to tell Chris later that it didn't pass. So
I was wondering about that, yeah.
All the excitement.
Well, good afternoon, directors. Item 4B on here is just a sort of status report update of where we're at hydrologically in the county across our three major watersheds, the Stanislaus, McCulmy, and Calaveras, as we prepare to enter into the new water year starting October 1st. And we really just wanted to share some graphs and charts, as you'll see in the attachments to this item, really just to, again, kind of stamp that position as we move forward, because even though we had a very wet year, relatively speaking, we're all now used to seeing reservoirs at their fullest and really we're in good position with regards to curtailments and other issues this last year. We have to recognize that we're moving forward into the next winter cycle and we could be returning back to drought conditions and et cetera moving forward. So I wanted to start with the first attachment A to this agenda item. That one really just identifies some of the San Joaquin hydrologic indices. It's worth pointing out that the state has 5 different classifications ranging from wet conditions, above normal, below normal, dry, and critically dry. Critically dry being where you see your drought conditions, et cetera. And what we thought was really interesting to illustrate to the public and the board was that prior to 1950, going back in the water year indices, there was actually a 70% occurrence of wetter years following wetter years. It was kind of interesting to point out. And after 1950, it completely shifts to 60% of them being drier year types following wetter years. So this gets into obviously some of the climate change discussions and other things that are trending and occurring over time across our watersheds. But it's worth pointing out that none of this is prescriptive of what we can expect next year. I don't have a crystal ball at all. If I did, I'd be in the wrong business. I'd be making more money trying to work with others. But realistically, we can expect that this could be anywhere between a dry condition, could be drought again. I mean, we should be prepared for that given that's what's occurred in the past. The second attachment on here, attachment B, illustrates some of the storage levels in 2 of the major reservoirs that Calaveras County Water District relies on, New Hogan and New Spicer Meadow. And what you'll immediately notice out of both the charts is that we are at some of our highest levels, especially in New Spicer Meadow, that we've ever seen as of September 1st. So this is a great position to be in as we move forward and may have to rely on previously stored water in order to fulfill our service area demands and others. So at least all good at this moment. Check back in, of course, next June to see what this winter looks like. But again, as we're preparing for the next water year, water managers here, the Water Resources Department, operations, engineering, others, will make sure to better prepare our water rights, our reporting, and to be ready for what may come next. Obviously, the district sits in a pretty good position water rights wise. It always has, owing to some of the earliest developments of the district in the 40s and 50s. We benefit largely on the North Fork Stanislaus watershed, but also for our contracts we have in New Hogan and some of our oldest Bear Creek rights on the McCollum side. Into the future, we have to be concerned with things like time extensions, eventual licensing, and other things that could impact the scope of those rights. So even though CCWD is in a great position now with regards to water supply conditions, it may not always be if the state board were to ever scale some of that back as we move into the later stages of our water rights permits and approvals. And a lot of that will be future managers and staff here at CCWD engaging with the state board and trying to understand what that looks like and how it impacts. So the basically to summarize, things look good right now. We'll hope for another wet winter, but not too wet. I mean, at this point, we can be a little bit choosy on what we hope for, given we just had a wet year, but happy to answer any questions of where we're at. And then we'll point out that I am leaving the district, so this will be my last update for you all as at the board, but at least I was able to share good news on the last update.
Yes, we're gonna miss
Well,
you.
I personally refused your,
That's true. You did refuse my resignation, so.
we'll go on. But anyway, what I really appreciated about you, Brad, is the fact that you got in here and you learned so quickly. You were able to
Yeah.
educate us in nothing flat,
You acted like you were here for years.
Well, and I need to give a ton of credit to former water resources managers, in particular Larry Diamond, Peter Martin, give credit to Michael Minkler, our operations, Damon, Pat, our engineering crew and others at the district here, and having the materials around. I mean, there's a reason we have full, filing cabinets
Right,
lining
right.
the offices, boxes, as they can attest to. I spent, many hours in there just reading through old reports, understanding what does the district have to it, what are the rights, what are the concerns, considerations, others. And so I would recommend that future staff continue to review those documents. They're there, they're available, and they're really well thought out, planned, and really try and point the district in a good strategic direction. And that helped me get up to speed quickly.
Yeah, you mean the plans to move those files? We don't want to do that. We want
At least digitize them and make them a little easier to search maybe, but yes, at least hold on to copies of them.
Well, as I say, I certainly appreciate you and again, I hope your tour with CCWD was,
Yeah.
enjoyable and,
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciated my time here and for, Michael hiring me, bringing me up from Santa Clara Valley Water District before this. That was very much the federal state contract side and a very different way of looking at water resources and supplies. Coming up here and getting to look at the upper watersheds, how you guys manage above some of those room reservoirs and getting an understanding of the in-depth water rights themselves, how you manage the watersheds and do everything, given your limited, financial resources and staff. But honestly, everyone's done an amazing job. It's been a real pleasure to work here and learn a lot from others. And so I've really enjoyed working with everyone and hopefully not sounding like I know everything, obviously, but hopefully contributing and moving us forward in a direction during my time.
and your new job?
I'll be with EKI Consultants, but I will be working remotely for California clients as well as developing some Midwestern clients for them because I will be moving to Madison, Wisconsin with my family,
Right.
returning back to, home country, if you will.
We're gonna miss you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You did a lot for us.
Brad
So
has
thank
done
you.
a ton for us and we've been blessed to have good water resources managers in the past, as you mentioned. But Brad brought a unique skill set and expertise and intelligence and a work ethic that really took us, helped us build on that that we had before and take us to another level. So we're definitely going to miss that. The way Nancy summarized it for me as I was trying to formulate how difficult it will be to move forward without Brad. She said, well, you're not going to have the encyclopedia of Calaveras water rights sitting next to you in meetings anymore. And that's exactly what Brad has become. So just incredibly valuable and just fun to work with too. So we'll miss you, Brad.
I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
sure.
I'll certainly miss you all here. And again, I'll be at a firm. So hopefully with all this Calaveras knowledge I've got in my head, there's some way to put it to use somehow. We'll see if that ends up materializing in the future.
The thing that I'm gonna miss is the wonderful whiteboard. Connect the dots. This is connected to this, and that makes me wonder: are there any of those little marker pens? Are they all empty? Are you leaving them?
You'd have to check. I have gone through a number of them actually, and on Kelly's whiteboard, oddly enough, the water resources specialist, I've drawn a lot on his as well to go through some of these concepts. And honestly, that's been my way of getting up to speed and learning a lot, was just to redraw it on a whiteboard, understand where the connections are. I mean, you guys deal in a very complex web of other people's water rights, other large interests downstream of you that are always looking upstream to figure out what's being used above them and diverted and everything. And CCWD does a really good job of balancing a lot of these needs and involvement in other programs to make sure it's protecting its assets. So I would just encourage you guys to continue a lot of that work, and I'll still be a customer. I'm going to have my place in Camp Connell that I plan to come out and visit. So now you'll only hear me as a customer going forward though.
Yeah, he's on the byway.
I am
We
by
know
by
where
the
you
general
are.
store. You
Yeah.
know where I am.
Mr. Director Ratterman has raised his hand.
Brad, it's been a pleasure working with you. You're one of the smartest guys I know, and it's just fun listening to you talk. I write that down. DKI. I hope it's at the top of our vendor list. We have an opportunity to work with this gentleman, and great to hear you're remaining in the county. Hope to see you in soon and in the future. Good luck to you and your family in Madison. It's sounds like an awesome thing to do.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott. And thank you for listening to my crazy ideas and ways to move water resources.
You've done a great job.
No crazy
We will
ideas.
miss you.
I didn't hear any.
I know.
Right.
Anyway, where's
luck
our
to you, Brad.
where's our resolution for this guy? Man, really, he's smart.
It didn't seem right to do that after somebody had been here for 34 years. It's still mind blowing to me, but no, we should have. I hope that this wasn't necessarily agendized this way, but as things developed, we realized there was going to be discussion of this. So I'm glad we got an opportunity to recognize Brad here today. And also, I just want to acknowledge too, Brad took it upon himself. Some people put in their notice and then kick their feet up and you hardly hear from them for their last few weeks that they're here. Brad put a tremendous amount of work into documenting everything, spent a lot of time with Mark and Kelly and myself downloading everything. And so we're much better off now than we were when Brad got here because of that effort. So thank you for that too, Brad.
When's your last day?
Today,
Oh, no.
yes. And apologies
We
to,
can mail them one.
apologies to Mark and Kelly for the past couple of weeks throwing so much at them. But I have full confidence in them. It's been a great chance to work with Kelly Jorgensmeyer and Water Resources. And Mark has already proven a quick learner on that, but there's a lot. of
And so
there.
you'll still answer your phone like Chris was gonna do for us?
I will, but my time won't be free anymore. So-
Gotcha.
Anyway, no, I appreciate working with you all. Thanks again to the board. It's been a real pleasure being able to present and share information with you all over the past few years. And I'll look forward to seeing where you all go forward as the board, as a customer now.
So is the U-Haul truck out here?
A bunch of the stuff already got moved back kind of midsummer, and we've been staying up at the place in Camp Connell recently, and now that stuff's all packed and ready to go. We're moving out Monday's official moving day to start drive.
Safe travels.
Good luck.
You'll do really well.
Thank you. I will have to deal with winters again, but I'm looking forward to being closer to family. So
Absolutely.
thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Brad.
Oh, man.
Oh, man is right.
I'm gonna declare a 5-minute break here so I can go cry. So can we reconvene? Oh, public comment on Brad Arnold's departure
Or
here,
water resources update.
water resources update.
It's all about his departure. Anybody?
Nothing? Okay, the aforementioned 5-minute break is starting now. I'd like to call the meeting back to order, please.
Do your gavel.
Yeah. Make me use this. All right, we are moving on to item 4C. This is a discussion and action on regarding a sole source purchase of a UPS. That's tell me what the UPS stands for.
United Parcel Service.
So you,
Uninterrupted power
Universal
supply.
Power Supply.
Uninterrupted.
Uninterruptible power supply.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. An uninterruptible power supply for the ozone generator at the Copper Cove Water Treatment Plant. And tell us why that's important, that the power supply has to be uninterruptible.
Well, so good afternoon, everybody. Of course, this isn't such a great topic of spending money right now, but unfortunately, that's what I get to do. Hopefully. So this UPS unit at the Copper Cove Water Treatment Plant is a battery backup system for the ozone generators. In case of power outage, these generators are not made to just turn off. It takes a sequence to turn these generators off. It's bad for the generators to just cut off in a second. So the battery backup is there to sustain power while our big power generator kicks on and supplies power to the units. It also helps conditioning power that goes to the ozone generators.
And Jesse, this backup battery, it works very similar to like a computer. You don't want to have it just shut off. It blinks for a second and never really loses power.
That is correct. Yep.
Because we don't want to. Correct. We
Yeah.
don't want any, holes in our delivery.
Well, so the next agenda item, as you can see, generators are not cheap. And so the less we can limit the destruction on the generators themselves and the wear and tear is definitely good for the generator life.
And just to clarify, we're talking about ozone generators, not backup power supply generators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
I know there's,
and this item
I know you.
is included in the budget. Therefore, it was also part of the rate increase studies and whatnot.
that is
It's
correct.
included in budget. Perfect. Thank
Yes.
you.
Yes, ma'am.
So does this put us back? Remember a couple of years ago, we talked about how great, we had as far as generator supply. Does this put us back up?
Yeah, so that's why I wanted to clarify that this is not a backup power generator. That's what that discussion was, in standby power generator. We're only talking about the ozone generators at Copper Cove Treatment Plant. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Operating on their own, this uninterruptible power would last how long?
I believe the battery unit lasts up to an hour.
What's the life of the battery backup?
Well, with right maintenance on it, our last UPS battery backup lasted about 20 years.
Nice.
So, and this one, hopefully we'll be able to squeeze as much life
Was-
out of it as we
Is there
can.
a warranty on it?
Uh,
18 months, it said, maybe?
It's
Yeah.
3.
Okay.
Yeah,
From the time it was put into service, whichever is.
yep, right when you plug it in.
Okay.
They make them as good now as they did back then.
And I've had a number of conversations with Jesse about this, and I was a little bit concerned about the not to exceed figure. Did you ever have any success getting somebody to commit to a figure that we don't see not to exceed becoming 90, not to exceed 96? We're going to be 95,900.
Yeah, no, so we're pretty much locked in at the $93,305.96.
Oh.
For
Big are
for
these
total.
units? I mean, for the, how big are they size wise?
Yeah, probably
Okay,
the
so it
podium.
needs real shipping, trucking, shipping.
Yeah.
Okay. Director Radaman, you have any questions on this?
No, it seems pretty straightforward. I do not.
Okay, well, we can make a motion and then ask for public comment if you desire.
I'll make a motion to approve item 4C, approving the sole source purchase of a UPS for the ozone generator at Copper Cove Water Treatment.
Second,
Second,
third. I
Okay,
beat you.
we have a motion and a second. We have any public comment on this item? Okay, hearing none, would you please poll the board on this?
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
yes.
Director Cicada,
Yes.
Director Thomas.
Yes. Okay, moving on to 4D. This is similar. We have a discussion and action regarding a sole source purchase of an ozone generator for project CIP project number 11133. What are we looking at here, Jesse?
Okay, so this is again at our Copper Cove water treatment plant and the UPS that you guys just approved. This UPS would be for these new generators. The generators that are there on site right now were put in 1998. So we've gotten a good 25 years out of them. They have now are obsolete, can't get parts for them. So we're wanting to replace the generators with newer generators, but the same type of generators that we have, ozone generators that we have at our Jenny Lynn water treatment plant.
Okay. We spoke briefly this morning about the possibility of having some salvage value for some agency, someplace that might want to buy them for the replacement parts. So did you have any discussion about that?
I did not get an answer for that. I apologize.
All right.
But I believe that, well, Jeff might be able to answer that question as far as Mr. Myers doing, if we were able to take these old generators and put them on eBay for sorts. or
We'd
did
certainly,
they have
we
to do
just surplus them the
surplus?
way we
Yeah,
do. Yeah.
yeah.
Set a minimum bid requirement. If a utility wants to pick them up on the cheap.
Okay,
And just like the previous item, Jesse, these were included in our budget, in the capital outlay budget. So with that being said, it was also part of, the rate increase plan, if you will.
Yes, ma'am. It was in the budget.
Thank you.
Yep,
Accounting for our money.
absolutely.
Mhm.
I remember a couple of years ago, Bill Cardinal came in and boy, I was, my face was pretty long after that presentation. He said, everything he's got down there is 25 years old and gonna quit any minute seemingly. So this is gonna make Bill happy.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very happy.
Okay, but it's based on what we talked about this morning, that if we ordered them today, they're still 2 or 3 months out.
That is correct. Yes,
Okay.
there is a lead time on both pieces of equipment.
Okay. All right, any other questions here?
I'm good.
Director Ratterman?
No questions, Director. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to accept the purchase of a sole source purchase of ozone generators, a CIP project 11133.
Second,
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We have any public discussion about this? Okay, I don't hear any. Would you please poll the board on this?
Okay, Director Underhill,
yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Cicada,
Yes.
Director Thomas.
Yes. All right, thank you, Jesse. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you very much.
Okay, item 4E, discussion action regarding
the award of a construction contract for the Copper Cove Phase 1 and 2 tanks project. This is our capital improvement project number 11083C. Charlie.
Good afternoon, members of the board.
Good afternoon.
So yeah, this is a project that's been in planning for at least over a year, and we've been working with Peterson Brustad, who did the design of the plans, and it involves the rehabilitation of 4 tanks in Copper Cove, right in the vicinity of the water plant, and construction of an additional new clear well at the water plant. So 4 tanks total. A lot of these tanks are used for disinfection of the water as it leaves the water plant. So that's a consideration. And then we're also redoing quite a bit of the site piping related to those tanks as well. So Peterson Bristad completed the design. We put it out for bid a little earlier this summer, and the bid opening was on August 10th. And we received 5 bids total. And TNS Construction in Sacramento was the lowest responsible bidder. Peterson Brustad reviewed the bids and agreed with CCW staff in the recommendation to award a contract to TNS Construction. And their bid amount was $6,929,450. And the engineer's estimate from Peterson Brustad was 8.4 million. So they came in under bid. So we believe we got a good price on the contract. In terms of financial, it was part of the approved budget for the next 2 fiscal years, 4 million in each of the next 2 years. That funding is coming from about 6 million is coming from the CIP loan number 1 that was issued in June 1st, 2022. And the balance of those funds are coming from 1.9 million are coming from the Copper Cove Water Fund 374, which is the expansion fund. So basically capacity fees.
So Charles, there's, roughly $1 million in savings. So that'll stay in the Copper Cove Water Fund to be used towards other projects potentially.
Right, yes.
And
What's not reflected in this is the total project budget that will include, cost to do inspections and geotechnical testing. And we also we'll have a contract coming to the board probably, or it just depends on the
you
amount.
just burst my bubble then.
Well, those costs were already going to be incurred. So, but yeah, this is overall savings. So we're really happy.
Okay. Well, I just look at it with that rate increase. It's nice that this is the first project that's lower than anticipated. So we're off to a good start.
Right.
It's the first one we've seen in a while. I hope it is a trend we'll see more of. I think there's 2 things happening though. I would caution, I don't want people to get overly excited that costs are coming down, because I think what's happening here is the engineers' estimates have caught up to the inflationary environment that we're in. So it's nice that it provides us with some certainty, and hopefully it stabilizes going forward, and hopefully we continue to see bids come in under the estimate, the estimated cost. It's good news, and it's a contractor we know. So we're excited to get this project going.
Yep.
And this is something that operations have been asking for, this project, because the condition of our tanks. So there.
You've been asking for it for a while.
This is the tank that I didn't want to get too close to.
So the redwood tank.
In fact, I was telling him to have the engineers move their desks out there.
Yeah.
To work out there, maybe you guys would
Right.
move a little quicker.
This does include the redwood tank that
Yeah.
is no longer in
Yeah,
service.
it's a great project, and it's included in our plan for the rate increase. So I'm good with it.
Okay, I have a couple of things. Have you made provisions already for the redwood tank? I mean, what you're gonna do with it?
That ended up getting lumped into the contractor's contract. So with,
That's why it was $1 million low. It's $1 million with the
the
redwood.
logic,
2 million.
we've done this in other contracts. So the logic is that they have to recognize some savings to the contract for the value of the redwood.
Okay.
Okay, and then My question that I had goes back to, as you're drawing up these engineering plans, I mean, how close are you working with the finance department so that you can make sure that everything, you know which pot to go to, or, I mean, what is the,
Yeah, so I could take that one a little bit. That is usually not part of the design process. If we're in design, it's because we've already identified funds for the project. And so if there's any surprises, we need engineering to let us know that the cost has changed or the cost is going up. But other than that, by the time we're at this point in the process, we've already funded the project based on different sources of funds we have available for capital improvement.
oh.
And also, we do ask that the consultants provide cost estimates that certain deliverables. So like the 90% deliverable, Peterson Brewstad gives us a cost estimate. And they, as we move along in the process, the cost estimates get a little more refined and we hope more accurate. Obviously at the very onset of the budget level, they're rougher numbers, they're not, but by the time you get into like a 90% deliverable in the design phase, we're having actual people with some construction experience help with the cost estimates that do this for a living. So that's in the case of the cost estimate for the tanks at Copper Cove, this contract, they for 8.4 million at Peterson Brewstad. That was a specialist that put together that cost estimate.
Right.
Then when we go to the Jenny Lind project, we also have the same thing occurring on that project.
Okay. And all of these companies, are familiar to us. TNS.
Yes, so TNS, yeah, I failed to mention that. This TNS was the company, construction company that did the Reach 3A project.
Right, I remember the TNS.
Yeah, and they
And
did
then
a
it-
great job for us and they were great to work with. So we're happy to see them come.
Yeah, because they were new on,
Mhm.
uh-huh.
That was the first time we worked with them.
And PBI, of course, are old companies we worked with before. So, okay, that's fine.
And do we have all the boxes checked on archaeological resources and are the tribes gonna
Equal.
come and bother us?
Yeah, so that's in the next agenda item.
Okay.
So, but it's important. Yeah, it's so these tanks have to be approached a little differently because 3 of them are rehabilitation and replacement, which we'll get into the next agenda item. The third one is a new construction on a green field, so that one had to be handled a little differently.
Okay. All right, Bertha, was that all your questions? Do
Yes, thank you.
you have any?
I'm good.
Mr. Ratterman?
I'm good. Very good presentation, Charles. Thank you.
Okay, entertaining a motion?
I make a motion to adopt resolution 2023-53, accepting the bid submitted by TNS Construction as the lowest responsive and responsible bidder for the Copper Cove Phase 1 and 2 tanks project, and authorizing the general manager to execute a construction contract with TNS Construction in the amount of, $6,929,450 per said project.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any public comments on this item? Okay, hearing no one. How about a roll call on this one, please?
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Cicada,
Yes.
Director Thomas.
Yes. Okay, moving on to this next one is, okay, F4F. That's a bad thing when you're trying to get in the Army, isn't it? You're presenting on this one also, Charles.
Correct. So this item is related to the last item. This is for the environmental approval, and to kind of like give the brief, big picture here of what's going on is, so we had an existing project that was in 2006, that was in 2007 timeframe, that was approved by the board. The environmental document was done, the plans were done. The board adopted that mitigated negative declaration, including mitigation measures that were adopted in a mitigation monitoring and reporting plan. So that project, a portion of that project includes a 20-inch transmission main that comes out of the treated water pump station, goes right past the clear wells that we at the water treatment plant site, and really needs to be constructed at the same time we're doing the construction of these two clear wells and the on-site piping. So all that needs to be kind of done at the same time. So the idea, and then the other three of these tanks are categorically exempt. So if you're rehabilitating an existing seal tank, so we're going to cut the roofs off, put new roofs on, sandblast, paint them. That's all a maintenance activity that's exempt. The Redwood tank, we're pulling that one down, putting a equally sized steel tank back. That's an exempt activity. The only one that's not exempt is this new clear well that we're constructing next to the water plant, and that requires some additional grading. That same area was looked at in 2006, along with the previously approved mitigated negative declaration. So rather than kind of piecemealing the projects, we decided the best approach was to bring them together as a single project and do that by an addendum to the original mitigated negative deck. Also at that opportunity, we also are working with PBI on this transmission main and pump station project as well. So Peterson Brewstad's looking at a suite of projects out there, including this tank project that we currently have. And also we're currently working on the design of this transmission main and booster pump station improvements that will come out, later in 6 months from now, approximately. So we're just, so what we did is, we were concerned about, okay, it's a pretty old mitigated negative deck adopted in 2006. So we have an environmental consultant on board, Helix Environmental. We consulted with them. They recommended doing an additional site survey to evaluate the area of the new clear well that we're constructing. And so they found no real significant differences between the original mitigated negative deck and their current study. So it validated the original mitigated negative declaration. So we felt comfortable with the approach of issuing this addendum for the environmental document. And that's what's attached to the agenda, is this addendum number 1 that goes through basically a description of, the original project that was approved in 2006. And then it gives you on the page 2 of the addendum, it describes the kind of the revised project elements. And that includes some of these other items we're working on with Peterson Brewstad on the pipeline and booster pump station, and also adding in this clear well. So that's kind of the approach. There were some, what we call an enhanced mitigation measure. We're not really allowed to completely change mitigation measures, but there was the Helix Environmental recommended some of the pre-construction surveys, some additional surveys be added for sensitive species. And so that's what we're agreeing to. And so that's kind of pretty much my presentation. I know there's a lot to this agenda item. So if you have any questions.
Charles, I'm looking at, it says, financial considerations, there are none. Is this part of the project we just approved in the previous?
Correct.
So, and these changes are incorporated in that bid?
Correct.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
I see a note that that's a 20-inch water transmission main. Can you look simultaneously at figure 1 and figure 2?
Yes.
On figure 1, there's a proposed alignment of a 20-inch water transmission main. On figure 2, it says proposed alignment for a 16-inch transmission main. Same alignment, same, what are we doing there, 20 or 16?
Does it, oh, you mean in the figure
Yeah. in the
itself? Okay, here, let me something.
20-inch,
Says right there.
16. It's pointing at the same spot.
Okay.
You're so good.
Well, it just,
I'm glad you wear your glasses.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Somehow, I had corrected that, but somehow it didn't. Must have been some kind of a mix up. I mean, mine says 20-inch on it, so
oh,
So it's supposed to be 20, not 16.
it's supposed to be 20, yeah.
I think it says it in the written part. doesn't
I kind of wrote the top of it, so maybe if you print without markups, it might have not come out the way. So,
okay.
apologize for that.
I thought it was interesting too, this Helix company, you know, I'm always looking for the fly specks in the pepper. But anyway, it comes up here and it says verbally that the pipeline is going to turn eastbound, no, pardon me, westbound,
Uh-huh.
and go through an empty lot. And clearly the pipeline is going to turn and go eastbound, not westbound, but small
Oh, maybe it just
discrepancy. Turn the page upside down? Okay, that sounds good. No, that doesn't affect anything other than.
And where does that appear on in the addendum?
Hmm?
It's on which page was that?
Oh, no, it's, I don't remember. This was also on the engineering committee agenda
Uh-huh.
Last Thursday.
So they
So-
corrected it, maybe.
No, they didn't correct it, but I can't find it right now.
Okay.
There's, look it over after this gets approved, and it also lists a street that this work is going to begin on a street that doesn't exist in Copperopolis, but
Does it say west or east? What does it say? Do a search. Does it say
Oh,
west?
it says,
Going
it
east?
says that it turns west.
So is that the site bounded by Saddle Creek Drive to the northwest? Or is the next one?
No, we're wasting too much time on that. I remember what I saw. It's not important. It's just, it's only important to
If
me.
there's anything you want me to edit.
No,
and you
no,
by
no.
Board
No,
direction, I can do that.
no, I just like to remind people once in a while that they got the wrong street in Copperopolis stuff.
Because they only have two.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, and I'm really glad that they're looking for the existence of a fork-haired leaf. Boy,
Don't forget the frogs.
you can't mess with those fork-haired leafs. So
Red-legged frogs.
Now, that was
So-
important. That was important to Helix.
So I did want to like Cindy's question, if this has been incorporated in the contract, there is a little bit of, we're gonna have to discuss one issue with them about the scheduling of their work, because it wasn't caught in the addendum, but in talking with Peterson Brewstad and Helix, discussing the timeframes, there was an additional requirement in there for plant surveys that have, it's called the forensic period. So you have to wait until like May to do this survey.
Oh, okay.
So there may be some kind of shifting of some schedules with TNS construction to make that happen in the appropriate time frame. So, but that's the only.
But it's still an under budget project. So if there's a little bit more, we still might have some livable room.
We'll work with them. I think our strategy, if board approves, well, you've already approved it, so will be to work on the Redwood tank first and up at the tank B site and get that tank replaced first. That will help the schedule.
And tell them if there's any change in the disposal of the redwood tank, we're ready.
Yeah, I'm sure that it's very popular. I mean, that Redwood, everybody asks about it.
Even Francisco was curious about that. My last question on this, there's a 300,000 gallon clear well, and a clear well to me means something that's underneath the surface of the ground, but are you is this gonna be a tank or an in-ground?
There are all, yeah, we use that term. They're basically steel tanks,
Okay.
welded steel tanks. They're all above ground.
Okay, good. All right, well, I'm satisfied with this. How about,
I'm good.
I'm through.
Director Ratterman, do you have any questions?
No, I do not. I'd like to make a motion for approval.
Second,
It's about time you did. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have some public comment on this? Would you like to come? Okay, all right, good.
Afternoon, CCWD, Ralph Copeland, Paparopolis.
Good afternoon, Ralph.
Hi, Ralph.
Hi. I'm still not convinced this is a 20-inch project. I've been told that we need it for hydraulics, we need it for specific mixing to meet the standards of the state and federal requirements. But walking out of the CCWD presentation of the rate increase, I walked out with an engineer. It may have been the gentleman right there. We walked out through the kitchen. Yeah.
That's
Okay, I had asked him about the 20-inch line, and he goes, yeah, I go, that's an interesting project. He mentioned that it's also gonna help future development. Now, I was all good and ready to accept the 20-inch until I heard that. And now, after reading some more, this project began in 2006, 2007, 2000, 5, around there, when everything was booming. 2008, we didn't need the project. Now all of a sudden we do. I don't know. You're saying that you want to piecemeal this. Why not? You can piecemeal a pipeline like this. You can spread this out over 5 years, 4 years. If a new development is required, let them add their own tank, let them add their own pipeline. Let's just size this to accommodate the local people with some overage, but not enough for the pie in the sky dreams of these developers who think that they're going to build these elaborate homes. So that's all I gotta say is that you can downsize this pipeline. And I would encourage you to, because you would save a lot of money, and also whether or not you buy 20-inch or whatever, I'd consider buying the pipe directly rather than through the contract.
Can we have some response to what he just said? That would help me,
Sure.
Damon, Mark, or somebody. But with his response of saying it should be considered, a smaller pipe, can you guys help me say why we're going with 20 versus what Ralph recommended?
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
I think we can.
Pay the ransom.
Don't pay the ransom.
So I'll start, and I think Charles can jump in. There are a lot of factors that have resulted in the 20-inch diameter pipeline. So one thing that the project allows us to do is currently we convey water. Once we measure disinfection at the treatment facility in the clear well, we push that water up to the B tank zone. And we're also calculating the volume of water in the pipe from the treatment plant to B tank to optimize disinfection. So then we actually take the water from B, if you can imagine B's here and C's on the other kind of mountaintop, a mile or a couple miles away, and we convey water to C via a pump station. So what we're doing is we're actually redirecting the wholesale volume of supply through the C tank. So that allows us to eliminate the B tank pump station, and it improves our disinfection capability because the greater the water molecules in contact with chlorine, the longer duration, the less chlorine you need. So we can actually send the water now, we reroute it. We no longer will send it up to B tank, and then out into distribution, we'll send it to C tank, which can then feed the B zone. and the folks on the other side of the lake. And we'll optimize the disinfection capability through the additional clear well and the 20-inch diameter pipeline.
So with that larger pipeline, you've kind of added additional treating pipe
Capability.
capability, and then you said you took out another pump or something?
So there's a
Kind of making some,
right. So we went back and forth on this conversation a couple years back, whether or not we rehabilitate our B tank pump station, which conveys water from B to C for distribution system pressures and supply, or whether or not the better mechanism is to establish the pipeline and eliminate this B tank pump station. So this project eliminates that component. So no longer are we going to need to rehabilitate the B tank pump station.
so that saves some money right there then.
Right.
So, and then compensating for a larger pipe.
Right. We're kind of redirecting the whole process that used to go to the B tank site now to C tank and allowing C to fill B.
So can I conclude that it has little or nothing to do with future anticipated development, specifically Copper Valley? They are not going to be affected by this? Or they won't?
It's been an ongoing problem. Yeah, it's not just new future development. It's development that's already occurred in the past. You know, we've had a bottleneck in this. We were looking at this in 2006, so this has been a problem for a long time. Bill Cardinal, our operators out there, she's always saying, hey, reminding us we need to be looking at this. And every year he talks about it. We just were dealing with the original 1978 pump station and pipeline, really. And that's, since that's what we have in service right now, and that's what we're working with. So it needs to be upgraded. Yep. But
So if we do have future growth 8 years from now, let's say, they could benefit from that pipe, and could we charge some kind of additional capacity fees for that, even though we put it at
Captured in our capacity fees, there's always a buy-in portion to the system.
something
So it
that's already there
It
that we
would be
put in?
captured in our capacity fee. Yeah.
Yeah,
and it's
it's
So-
not board approval. We're not board approving this project today.
Okay. But I still kind of want to understand what he says. And so let's say 10 years from now, we added 1,000 more homes. Now the process of adding treatment capacity, does that go away if we had 1,000 more homes? Because you said it has more room to move around in there. So now if we're having to push more water, would that make the
Yeah,
capacity
correct.
free
Yeah.
less?
The way it was worked out was Peterson Brewstad worked master plan. We developed the growth projections. We came up with, here's our current demand, here's our demand in 20 years from now. And, we figure out what that flow is. And then they size the facilities based on that.
Did I hear you say, Damon, that there is some advantage of having the pipeline being bigger just because of the additional volume of water that's in the pipeline?
That's correct. So Charles touched upon it. So right now, when we're pushing water from our B tank site to our C tank site, we can't fill it faster than the water is discharged out the other side. So we lose C tank. So when we had the fire kind of by Salt Springs Reservoir in that neck of the woods, we were actually on the phone with the fire department saying, hey, you got a couple more fills, and then we're going to need to relocate you because we're going to lose this tank. And that's the C zone, simply because B can't fill it at the rate necessary. Not only do we have treatment staff talking about just regular supply and demand as it exists currently, but we're also looking at fire protection. And overall, this just solves a whole host of problems.
So you just said fire protection. Do we have any grant funds for this project? Because there should still be grants available out there for fire mitigation.
very, very limited grants for fire suppression for water infrastructure. It's an issue we've been raising with
And
our
it's all gone.
advocacy effort. But
Because when I was on IRWM stuff, that's what we talked about. There was a lot of grant opportunities for fire mitigation. So even if we could get, a little bit just covering the cost for the pipe itself, upsizing the pipe, that helps the fire mitigation. Is that
Any fire protection grant that fits within the scope of something that we have, we apply for. One thing that we found, which was kind of eye-opening, and I think we've heard conversation that this might change in the future, but FEMA when you talk about hazard mitigation projects, when you start talking about pipelines and fire hydrants, they're kind of like talk to somebody else.
Existing infrastructure.
Right, yeah.
Most of the fire suppression funding that's available is not to upsize water infrastructure for fire suppression, even though that would be a perfect use of that
The
funding.
reason is because it's considered to be growth inducing and they're
Microphone.
they still don't, there's part of them that still don't want to have. any
There,
growth
there,
in those.
yeah, there has been some progress. I mean, well, we'll see. The proof will be in the pudding, but there is a lot of advocacy pressure push, especially from the mountain counties to Sacramento saying, look, this is a legitimate concern. We need infrastructure funding, especially because we can't charge ratepayers for it necessarily, but our communities depend on those fire suppression capabilities. So it's a bind that we're in, but there are very few sources of funding that you could use to pay for water infrastructure for the purpose of fire suppression.
But I think what you're getting at, Cindy, and I don't know if they explained it all that well, but any of these projects that has an existing deficiency component and then a growth component, they have to do the math and then they figure out what level of capacity fees can enhance that.
Right.
Because we can't throw it all on the ratepayers because some of it is a growth, some of it is growth related, and that is only to be paid for with capacity fees. But the rates pick up the slack for the existing deficiency.
Existing
They
replacement.
do that on all of our projects.
That's right. We're not there. Yeah, there is no, there's no ratepayer money going to fund capacity expansions for the purpose of development here. We wouldn't do that.
Right, but sometimes it's the same project.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we have looked at this, we work closely with operations staff, Bill Cardinal, who has to do all these chlorine disinfection calculations all the time and submit them to the state. So, this pipeline will be the disinfection contact chamber to treat the water. And so we did look at 16-inch diameter, we looked at 18-inch, we looked at 20-inch. So what happens is you go down inside. So Peterson Bruce said we could go as small as 16-inch diameter. But what happens is you start getting differences in temperature and, between summer and winter and different doses of chlorine. And, what it does is starts constraining the operator more and more they don't have any flexibility in adjusting these parameters. They can only, it limits what they can do. So if you have a little bit larger pipeline, it allows the operator some ability to make some adjustments to, keep chlorine levels lower because people don't want high doses of chlorine.
Right.
So
What's the capacity of that line? Is it equal to a tank? Is it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically like having another facility.
Yeah, and we didn't have to have another pump station replaced. So station
Right.
It's a linear
Yeah.
pipeline.
Right.
And then a tank, you put water in a tank, it just gets all mixed together.
Yeah.
Well, we have trouble with some of our larger tanks because of the
Right.
chlorine byproducts and stuff.
Got
It sounds good.
And
Oh, yeah.
it's not to gloss over to the bypass of the B tank pump station, which is in bad shape. We would be having to fund the replacement of that pump station. It's a safety issue. There's all sorts of issues with that pump station if we weren't doing.
So
that
that's going to be
project.
decommissioned then.
Right.
Okay.
And maybe I didn't highlight the fact that there was another booster pump station planned, a new one, right near the entrance of Harper Valley or Saddle Creek. And working with Peterson Brewstead, we were able to eliminate that pump station. It's probably like a $5 million pump station. So what we were able to do instead was just replace the pumps at the water plant. Yeah. And
Nice.
And part of that was that there was we looked at the growth numbers very carefully, and the 2005 master plan had some pretty high projections for growth. And so we were able to cut that way back, and that enabled us to eliminate that pump station.
Cool.
There was a 3,000, back in 2005, 6, there was a 3,000 acre Oak Canyon Ranch that went away in this permanent green space now.
Right.
So,
I even think for like Tuscany Hills, there were some projections that
that's
were much higher density, and then
Yeah.
we moved to lower density projections.
Okay, well, thank you for responding to that comment. It was helpful for me.
And I
Ralph,
have
you
just
would
one
follow up?
question. Yeah.
Bertha, hang on one second. Ralph said he'd like to have a little follow-up. Just to remind everybody, we have a motion and and a second, and somebody's trying to talk us out of voting for it, so.
Not necessarily. I understand the need for the pipeline. There's no doubt about it. We do need that pipeline. You just gotta remember, when he's telling you about these issues with the fire and so forth, we're talking about the existing 10-inch line. So just doubling it automatically, okay, but gosh, 16 and 18-inch, and then if you have some issues, that's where the talent of your district comes in. And we save some money for the taxpayers, and we just move on. That's all I had. Oh, I don't know if Charles answered the question about that you raised, if Copper Valley or anyone would benefit from the 20-inch line. And I don't think I really heard a yes or no.
I think all of Copperopolis will benefit from it, and any new development will have to pay in to contribute to the cost of the infrastructure. But I don't think it's a cost savings to downsize the pipe if it creates long-term operational issues for us, which was what we've struggled with in the past. So, I think the goal for the engineering team has been, what's the most efficient way to move forward? And this is the solution they arrived at.
Well, didn't I hear you say that if you had to replace that B pump or whatever it was at $5 million, and now we're going this route and the whole project is 6 million, I think you saved quite a bit by adding this larger pipe instead of replacing B pump.
Yeah, I can tell you that the growth projections that were in the prior design versus what we're looking at now are significantly scaled back. So this is, much of this pipeline is to serve existing customers. I mean, there's definitely an element of of growth in there that's been long overdue that we're trying to catch.
But we have the mechanism to be able to connect if that happens. Okay,
And there's
Okay.
still a comment online.
Excuse me? Yes, Francisco, your hand is raised.
I was waiting for the vote. I was going to ask about all projects, so I'll wait for the vote. And my question's related to all projects, if that's okay.
You're gonna wait for the vote.
There's a motion right now, right? You've got other projects that you've already approved that I have questions on, and I was waiting for this project to conclude as well.
Okay.
I don't have
so
any, I don't have any issues at all with what you're trying to do on this particular project as far
Okay.
as approval is concerned.
Okay,
Thank
all
you.
right then, just.
And I just have one clarification. Sorry, President Thomas. Charles, you said this is not part of the contract that was just approved. This is a contract that'll come back to the board in the future.
That's correct.
Yes, just wanted to clarify that.
But why?
Wait, I did ask that and it was.
So are we, do we have to vote to approve this?
Right.
This is listed as a discussion in action. We have a motion and a second to approve it.
To approve the addendum, and I asked if this was included in the project. we just
So we're
approved. We said
approving
yes.
the environmental document. We're not approving a construction contract for the 20-inch transmission main.
Correct, because that should be included in the project we just approved in the previous agenda item.
No.
I asked that.
No.
Oh.
That's what I wanted to clarify.
So,
Oh,
yeah, that will be, there's a schedule in our rate study for that funding of that project. I think it's a couple of years out. So, but we are actively working with PBI to design the design phase.
when I said that we were saving 5 million per se, I'm not doing that B pump. And yet this project is $6 million. That's not accurate now.
No, it is. This is the transmission line replacement project is what will replace the pump station.
Right, and that's not part of the project in the previous agenda item that we approved.
Those were just for 10.
Those are separate. That's a
Okay.
different project. Those were replacement of existing.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, just for clarification, we have a motion and a second to approve the environmental document. And we'll come back for approving at some future point the construction of the pipeline. And
Worth
you,
my thought, yeah.
yeah,
And then
we're,
I had a question. You know, in the grand scheme of things, as far as Copper Cove is concerned, this comes up, we have Copper Cove a lot. And so in the grand scheme of things, it's definitely part of our capital improvement program. I mean, specifically Copper Cove. And so whatever projects we're approving, or, you will submit under that headline or that title for Copper Cove.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, whatever is in the works, I don't, really know.
Yeah, it's in the, it was, so it is listed in the approved rate study. So the project that we're talking about that's gonna come like in years, 2 years out from now, or 2 to 3 years out from now. I don't have it in front of me, so I can't tell you precisely, but it is in the approved rate study. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, so
But
we'll,
I know there were some, we will bring that information back to the board, along with the 20-inch transmission main project. So we'll talk at length about that.
okay,
Okay, I'd like to call for the question here on the approval of the environmental document. Would you please call the roll?
Director Underhill,
yes.
Director Davidson.
Yes.
Director Cicada,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Thomas.
Yes. All right, thank you for all that discussion and thank you for your comments, Ron. Okay, going on to 4G, discussion and action approving a repayment of a loan from the Special Project Fund to the Jenny Lind Water Expansion Fund. Okay, hi, Jeff.
Yes, Director Thomas. This item before you is approval by minute entry for your board to authorize the repayment of a loan from the Special Project Fund to the Jenny Lind Water Expansion Fund. This item was brought before the Finance Committee on Monday, and they authorized and forwarded to your full board for approval. And I promise I won't take as long in my history lesson as I did in Finance Committee, because I have two board members here who may have been there early on to know what I'm talking about. And that's Director Davidson and Director Underhill. Little history lesson. Back in 2013, while we were all here, and the district obtained a loan from BBVA Compass in the amount of about $7.5 million to refund the 2004 enterprise refunding revenue bonds. Those bonds actually refunded the 1994 and 1995 certificates of participation and prepay a capital lease with LaSalle National Bank. Those things happened all before I came on board. But what those loans did is they enabled the district to make improvements within certain service areas. The Ebbets Pass Water Service Area, Jenny Lind Water Service Area, the Copper Cove Water Service Area, and Copper Cove Sewer. It also helped fund some infrastructure improvements on the operating side for both water and sewer. So these funds were making their debt service payments all along until the recession hit. Because when you're looking at those four expansion funds, the only revenue coming into those expansion funds are capacity fees. And there was enough capacity fee revenues generated in Copper Cove, both water and sewer, and Ebbets Pass, to be able to handle the ongoing debt service. Problem is, the recession really hit the Jenny Lind area very hard. Our new connections plummeted. You could count them on one single hand, when we had multiples, maybe even 100 prior to that. So what happened is the Jenny Lind Water Expansion Fund could not provide enough revenue to pay its portion of the debt service, which was around $390,000 a year. Up until 2017, when this 2013 refunding loan matured. So what did we have to do? Well, we can't renege on any debt. You're all aware of that. We've talked about that ad nauseum. However, we did look at where we could get money to loan the Jenny Lind Water Expansion Fund, and that came for our special project fund. Questions that I've been asked is, didn't you have any other options? We were in the middle of a recession. If you remember, money was tight. We deferred a lot of things. And so the special project fund, which gets its monies derived from a portion of the property tax revenue, was our only source. So each year, the special projects fund supplemented the Jenny Lynn Water Expansion Fund's capacity fees revenues to meet that $393,000 threshold. And if you look at actually on page 2 of the staff report, it shows the amount of money the special project fund actually forwarded to or loaned to Jenny Lynn Water Expansion Fund. As you can see, in the early years, it was almost 100% of the loan. But as we went on into 2015, all the way through 17, 18, the backfill wasn't as much because we were getting capacity fee revenues coming in. But that loan of 1.5 million of the advance from special project fund to Jenny Lynn is still on the books. It's been noted by our auditors, and we need to look at how we can start repaying that loan. And part of that was waiting for capacity fee revenues to catch up. And I don't know if I brought this forward to the board previously or if it was internal discussions, but I remember back in the 2010s, it was going to be years before we were able to pay this loan off because we had to get $1.5 million worth of capacity fees, and that's an awful lot. So our proposal today is not to pay the entire amount off. We're looking at $400,000. There's about $1.1 million in the Jenny Lynn Water Expansion Fund. So if we make this transfer from the Jenny Lynn Water Expansion Fund, Fund 364, into the Special Project Fund, which is housed within Fund 108, it will decrease the present fund balance down to $643,436 in the Jenny Lynn Water Expansion Fund. The Special Project Fund, its balance will increase up to $773,000. Now, one of the things to think about here too is we're paying from a water fund to a special project fund, which is combined water and sewer. So when you pay back the loan, 73% of that goes into the portion of the special project fund for water, 27 goes to sewer. But the bottom line is here's our auditors have noted this position. They have noted it in previous audits that we do need to start making these payments. And it is staff's recommendation that your board authorize us to transfer $400,000 from the Jenny Lynn Water Expansion Fund to Special Project Fund in fiscal year 22-23, the fiscal year that we just ended.
So, I'm going to ask something.
Yes.
How did you arrive at $400,000? Why did you not choose more or less? How did you get to $400,000 as the magic number?
Part of that was we may still need some of those expansion fees in that fund to pay for projects in the Jenny Lynn service area. Now, one of the things that I know was discussed previously in Charles' item, and one of those projects said we're using some of the money from Copper Cove Water Expansion Fund to augment the CIP loan. We have confirmed with our rate consultant and our master plans that up to 63% of the funds available within expansion funds can be used to upgrade and repair existing infrastructure. That's the buy-in, buy-up component that Michael was talking about. So we want to be able to leave some money in this expansion fund for future expansion projects within Jenny Lynn.
So again, how'd you arrive at 400,000?
I just looked at it and I didn't want to go down. I wanted to keep that 500,000.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Yeah. I'm hesitant. It's a no interest loan, so there's no penalties, but I wanted to be able to keep 600 and some thousand in it until we go through analyzing what the current rate, the adopted rate study has done to our future projects. And we're going through that process right now.
It was just a nice round number kind of a thing.
It looked good to me.
Okay.
Haven't you seen the dark?
Well,
We talked about this.
percent of something.
We
Go ahead,
talked about
Scott.
this in our finance committee meeting on Monday, and this is an item that has come up in our audit each year, and discussed in the management letter with recommendations to do something about it. And I would like to move that we take this $400,000 move at this time. My motion is to approve.
I'll second it. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any public comment on this item?
So
Okay.
Francisco, you still have your hand up. Is that from a previous comment, or do you want to comment on this item?
Who is it?
It's rather obtuse from a ratepayers' perspective. It's an accounting function, I guess. At some point in the future, I'll understand all the movement between funds, but at this point, I do not want to waste the board's time by asking very basic questions. So thank you. The hand is up for the overall project thing. I don't know if I need to keep it there or we'll just come back for a general public comment later.
So we don't have that agendized. If you want to make comment on other CIP projects, that may be something we have to take offline, but if it's not an item that's on the agenda, but feel free to reach out to me and we can follow up on it. And also
Well,
if you have other questions about this item.
This item I'll follow up offline as well. My comments have to do with getting status on projects in a way that we can understand out here. I am typically used to milestones, due dates, on or off budget, et cetera, by phase. And I haven't heard any of that in this discussion. So that's why I was waiting to see.
Got it. Okay. So that's not on the agenda, but happy to reach out and talk about that offline, or engineering committee. Engineering committee is usually where that discussion takes place.
That's what I was hoping for. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, moving on. Would you please poll the board on this item?
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Cicada,
Yes.
Director Thomas.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Going on to 4H, direction and discussion and direction regarding district capital R&R rate ordinance and financial management policy. Jeff, you're still up.
Yes, I am. Thank you. This item has also been to our finance committee for review, comments, and they have requested that staff forward it to the full board for review and adoption. We are not asking for approval today because we are having to replace an ordinance by an ordinance, and obviously we need to go ahead and post that. What I'm requesting today is comments and suggestions. During this rate study, it was discussed and determined that we will no longer have a capital R&R component to our rates. That R&R component was built in by ordinance back in 2013. The goal was, or the idea behind it, was to make sure that our CIP program had adequate funding. However, with the change in the strategy on how we had the rates, it was still felt that it was critical to show the staff and our customers that your board is committed to funding our capital improvement program. So in working with the finance committee and staff, we came up with some language to amend the ordinance and to actually create a new ordinance, rescind the 2013, and amend some of our policies to state that at a minimum, we are going to set the funding levels for the capital R&R sewer and the capital R&R water so that we know that there's a dedicated revenue source. And within that ordinance, it would require a 4/5 vote to use those funds for anything other than capital improvement contributions. That same 4/5 vote is in the original ordinance. So it would take a significant effort by your board to do away with that capital funding. Now, this is the bottom threshold of the numbers. Now, in the staff report, I talked about an amount of $1.2 million for sewer and 3.4 million for water. When we are finished with the 22-23 numbers, I'd like to amend that because the sewer it's just under 1.3 million. I'd like to make that the minimum threshold in the sewer 1.3, keep water at 3.4.
Is that in your report? And if so, what page can I find it on? The numbers you're talking about? I know it's.
The number was just updated in the last couple of days when we're looking at the,
Those numbers are actually in the ordinance at the bottom of that handout. The number, they're not in the
I know I
report
read
itself,
some, yeah,
but it's
No.
in the,
It's on the-
it's in the
Yeah,
new,
the
the
ordinance.
draft of the new ordinance.
the draft ordinance. there
Right,
it
in
is,
the
yeah.
red line, it's on the first page of the draft.
So it's like page 296 of the packet. That's where it starts, I would say.
Is
Yeah,
it?
yes, I have it as page 2 of the ordinance.
yes, 297. Yeah,
Section
297
2
of the
funding.
board packet.
Okay.
Hey, could
Yeah, I see it.
Jeff,
I
can
knew
I
I
comment
read
on
it.
this item? And then I have to run to another meeting that starts at 3 here. But I think this is coming back to our board a lot for me, my pushing both Jeff and Michael. When we, in 2013, after we passed those rates, that at that meeting, we voted that all that new money, any new money that was approved in the rates in 2013 would go only to CIP and not to operations and maintenance, which and it did for 5 years, and that money has been built into our rate structure. The next time we raised rates, which was 5 years later in 2018, we still had that same money, that whatever that money was, and this is could only be going to capital improvement. That really hamstrung our finance department and how again, it was in our audit and commented on how difficult it was to keep track of those funds from that 1 year from 2013 going forward. So in this rate structure that Habib, we worked with Habib in putting together, doesn't include that. But I thought it was important, and I hope the board does too, to still have basically holding staff's feet to the fire that we are spending money and approximately the same amount of money that we have been or more on CIP going forward. And this is the ordinance that would accomplish that without having the problem of having to separate funds every time they came in, which was an auditing and financial nightmare from what I understand. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments on this?
I do have one thing.
Sure.
If you, I'm sorry, Director Thomas. One of the things that we were discussing this morning, Catherine and myself, is we're setting these numbers at a fixed dollar amount. And she asked me, do we want to put a CPI on top of it because we're aware of cost increases? So I'm just proposing that to your board as an option. It is not included in this, but remember, we're coming back at a future date with this, so I can always make amendments.
Right, but in our rate study, we are speculating that there will be an increase in that, right?
Yeah, this will be separate from any rate
No,
structure.
I know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's what we're saying, so we might as well include it in this. I mean,
I can do that.
yeah.
I was just wanting direction from your board.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm fine with the dollar amount.
The dollar amount with the CPI,
With
just.
the CPI.
No,
that it can
I'm fine.
increase Whatever the,
So we'd have an
I'm
annual
fine.
escalator tied to an index.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm fine with just the dollar amount and not tied to an index, the will of the board though. Go ahead.
what, just curious, why?
It's just regardless of what happens, regardless of what's going on with the economy, that we still have money dedicated to CIP projects. And it's going to be the same dollar amount going forward, and either that much or more. And I don't think it's going to make that much difference with a tied to an indicator.
And Jeff, how did you arrive at these numbers? These are what we've had in the past?
This is our historical numbers coming in through the R&R funds.
Okay.
So the R&R portion of the rate was a fixed dollar amount,
Yeah.
not a percentage. So it was a fixed dollar amount. So it has increased our revenue from it has increased over time based on adding new customers, but not as a portion of the rate. So that's where the dollar amount came from, those, the number of customers plus or times that fixed dollar amount portion of the rate. But we needed to get rid of that fixed portion of the rate, as Director Ratterman mentioned, for multiple reasons, and creates more financial flexibility for us, but still committing to a minimum level of infrastructure spending.
And this is just a minimum. We spend much more than this on CIP projects, and we probably will. I know we will going forward, at least for the foreseeable future. It's just a minimum rate for what I was afraid of. A future boards 10, 15 years from now will get back to a situation where they're not doing any capital improvement projects, and this holds their feet to the fire, not necessarily current group here. We're well aware and fixated on CIP here at this point.
Okay, I see Francisco has his hand raised again. Go ahead.
I was under the impression that the COS covered all these kinds of things, and I was under the impression that as R&R went away, the COS essentially set financial goals and targets that are supposed to pay for just about everything, including in the 5-year CIP. So I'm a little confused as to why we need to set aside some more when the COS covered all of that.
You're correct. The cost of service did do that, and we're not replacing that or adding to it. This would just be a floor for infrastructure spending that we can't go below. But every year in the 5 years that we have currently projected in the cost of service study already exceeds this dollar amount. So it would have no impact at all on the 5-year financial plan.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments from the board or otherwise?
Well,
Okay.
I see the redlined items and we'll have time to comment on that.
Well,
and
is
bring
there,
it back
I mean,
again.
is there any way to give us several options when we actually adopt this, like one with CPI and one without? Because I mean, I think I might still lean toward, adding a little bit to it every year if inflation, rises or construction prices. I mean, because we're not really staying equal historically. It's always gone up.
Yeah.
So we've been dedicating less each year in real dollars.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just say preferably we make a call on it here so that we can notice the ordinance before we bring it back to the board for adoption.
gotcha.
Well, that's,
With
I
that language in
support
there.
that. That's what I support. I think, Scott, you made a motion, right? Or no, that was, okay.
Would you like to make a motion?
Well, yeah, I'd like to adopt it with the inclusion of a CPI escalator.
I'll second that.
Any
I have no
particular
problem.
CPI? Yeah, I was just going to say that we use the ENR cost
That-
index.
That's the construction.
Yes.
Okay, you revised your motion for.
Oh, yeah, we don't need any motions because
We don't-
you're just trying
yeah,
to hear
we're
from
not-
us.
It's
so-
just direction.
We're
Yeah.
just
Okay.
direct.
We're good.
Yeah.
I'm
So
perfectly
that
fine.
was-
I'm perfectly
Good for that
fine
motion.
with that as well. I just wanted to have a bottom, a floor, and either way, we still have it. Thank you.
Okay, do you have very far to go to your 3 o'clock meeting?
You're late.
Two doors down the hall.
Bye, Scott. See you later.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks for calling in.
Okay.
I
Okay,
have nothing else at this point.
nothing else.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
We're getting close.
Okay, I think according to what I'm reading is we're down to reports.
Well, closer.
We have an operations report, Damon. We still have operations.
We're still working.
Operations 24/7, 365,
Thank you.
never stops. So one thing I wanted to
That
highlight,
should be the new shirt design.
yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, we could put that on, on one, we have the flag on one sleeve.
Yeah,
24/7, 365 on the other side.
yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
That's
it's good.
probably a good idea.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so while we're getting moving here, one thing I want to highlight is Jenny Lind distribution crew, 32 service lateral repairs, all the while the utility crew is replacing service laterals in that system. So work continues in earnest throughout the distribution systems to replace aging service laterals. And so the utility crew will be moving over to the Poker Flat service area as things start to quiet down over in that neck of the woods on Lake Tulloch, so we can get some of those service laterals replaced. But in terms of the presentation.
And that's because Mazingo is pulling off for a while, or?
No, so at the HOA's request, we stayed out of Poker Flat during the summertime, just due to the
Yeah.
fact there's so many folks there, and we didn't want to negatively impact everybody's, all the homeowners and all the folks recreating there, and that was their request. So it allowed us to really dive into, continue to work on really Valley Springs and Rancho Calaveras. And so now, as we move into the winter time, we're going to move over to Poker Flat and knock as many of those out as we can. As we've talked about in the past, just heads up, Poker Flat is slow going due to the fact that we have power and sewer oftentimes in a common trench. So we can't replace the amount of service lines per day like we do in Rancho Calaveras. However, we're going to just keep on pushing forward. So what the presentation jumps off with, though, is West Point. And so we've had some service line repairs here. One thing I want to highlight in West Point is Doug Turner, our distribution lead out there. Is just, you can see the blue marks on the ground. That's where he is line located our service line, and listened and found it. And then the crew came out. The Jenny Lynn crew will come out and help him. That you see the gap vacs in the image on the right. So not only are they making 32 repairs over in Rancho, they're also driving up to West Point and helping Doug up in West Point. And the image on the left shows the fact that they just pinpointed it. They potholed and right on top of the leak, and they were able to put a repair clamp there. So great work. This image, not only do we have to repair service lines for our customers, but we also have to repair our own. So this is the service line that serves water to the warehouse at the West Point. The warehouse for distribution and collections is located at the waste treatment facility there in Cindy. That's where we had our meetup here this month. So great work there. You can see folks on the construction crew helping to replace. This is one of those troublesome meters that through negotiations with Mueller, CCWD said, yeah, we'll just jump in there and knock that one out. And so this is what this is, where you can see the pressure reducing valve, the meter, everything all plumbed up and ready to go, capped, and then we install that image on the right, come back and lay a box. You can see the node, the antenna in the image on the right. And one of the things that is really proved beneficial in West Point is locating lost or buried valves. So oftentimes, you might have a small repaving project about 10, 15, 20 years ago, even valve gets covered up. And so Doug has done a great job working with Grutz out there to locate these buried valves and exposing them. And one of the benefits that it provides is it allows us to then do this, which is take a bag off a fire hydrant, because we've actually located that isolation valve and reestablish flow. It's not the prettiest hydrant, but doesn't really matter when you need it. And so great work. Hats off to those guys out there working in the field in West Point. Yard cleanup. So here's the maintenance shop there, scraping all that mud off the ground after all these storms that we've had, and make sure to keep the site clean, which is a continuous effort. Construction crew worked with the Ebbets Pass distribution crew 3 different occasions in the month of August to replace failed fire hydrants. So this is at Lakemont, and you can see working to grab a hold of the main and install the fire hydrant runner here. And just, hats off to our folks. The image on the right, they just do great work. That sanitary apron at the base of the hydrant. And then what happens up on the pass, and this is kind of an item of conversation with the new fire marshal and with the other different fire districts, is that yellow hydrant will then be painted to fire flow and FPA standards. And so you can see these other improvements up on the pass. And so it's also about optimizing a water age on Ebbets Pass, quite a distribution system. And so water age can be an issue. And so our crews will survey the distribution system and move automatic flushers to where they see optimal. And then we work with our construction crew to install, you can see in this case, riprap to make sure that we don't negatively impact anybody's property when this thing discharges. So this thing can automatically flush up to about 8,000 gallons a day of water. So this works to reduce the water age in the system and improve the overall water quality during periods of low use. Here's some additional work the distribution and construction team worked on over on Shoshone. You can see the hydrant image on the left with an exposed water service line just kind of hanging out in the air. And folks will come back and regrade that drainage ditch, bury the service line, and rip wrap around the hydrant to keep it open and exposed, reestablish the snow pole and get everything ready. So it's easily accessible.
Question for you. When you go out and do the work, and so the difference between the left and the right is putting in rocks. Is that going to be a standard way of doing things now whenever?
We have multiple ways of doing it. This is one riprap and it's effective. Another one is we can use wood, or we can actually pour a concrete form. It really all depends on the availability of material and whether or not our crews feel like it's one of those sites that's just going to continuously
Because
slough.
up there, you know, we have the water all the
Right.
time. So
Yeah.
that would make more sense.
Yeah, yeah. And in this case, the water can then flow through that riprap right into that V ditch and the storm water and then on and out.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. And then one of the work efforts that the folks up on the pass have been working on is really evaluating whether or not the alignments that are described in the maps are true. And so this is a really effective work, and this kind of speaks to the Jenny Lind A to B project. We have Mazingo out there potholing, verifying location of pipelines and alignment. We do the same stuff. So here we are out near the Dorrington pump station, verifying alignments, verifying pipe diameters, and then making corrections on our maps. And then so we can better understand how the water flows out in the distribution system. And this was related to a PRV installation. Here's some housekeeping work that has to happen all the time. We have to drain these vaults. They get filled up with stormwater so we can access the picture on the left is just great. You can see the pressure reducing valve, control valve is underwater with the isolation valves around it. And if you flip the lid at 2 o'clock in the morning and you need to get down in there because there's an issue, the last thing you want to have to do is drain it first. So good housekeeping, go out, drain all these vaults. Up on the pass, 100+ pressure reducing valves. Not all stations appear to be this way or like this, I should say, but there's quite a few. I mean, it's a very complicated distribution system.
Is that, I mean, when you get the groundwater saturation, are they all like that? I mean, like perhaps like this year, the spring was.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this year would have been worse than years past.
Spot along the golf course.
Yeah.
No matter what we do, they will feel like.
You don't have power close enough by that you could put a sump pump in there that would automatically activate.
Right. Yeah, but you can, I mean, I'm sure that we go ahead and grab a hold of the battery on a work truck and we can sump pump out of those. Yeah, right. Yeah, with a flat hose like this and just push all that water out.
Interesting.
Some images. So one of these was at the U.S. Forest Service property off Highway 4, and then another one of the other one is at Wild Ridge. So just really clean work. Hats off to the crews, and you can, Bertha, to kind of acknowledge that sometimes you'll see base rock, sometimes you'll see riprap. Kind of depends on the unique scenario where the hydrants lives, and then the snow pole. And speaking of, service lines, they fail up on the pass as well. So here we are replacing service line. You can see just the edge of the 2014 vintage back on the left. And then, prepping for winter. So we need to get those snow poles painted, valve lids reset and painted, and get prepped for what's coming. And so just kind of highlight some of the night work that this was a group project, Copper Cove distribution crew, collections crew members and utility crew members. The image on the left, you can see the leak in Copper Cove Drive, right at a curve, blind curve, dangerous work effort. And also when we have to isolate this line, you guys have heard this before, we have to take the majority of I would call it the business side, the grocery store and the restaurants off of O'Byrne's out of water. So we do this work at night to try to minimize the impact to both homeowners and commercial customers. And so this was a night job. The image on the right, you can see Casey on the utility crew saw cutting. So first you got to saw cut that asphalt, and then we have to remove the asphalt. And so you can see the mini excavators pulling up asphalt in chunks and putting in the back of the dump truck. And then we're starting to remove that base rock that's over the service line. And this, I should say, you know, prior to scheduling the work and coordinating with customer service, the notification, we have crews that are out there trying to listen to where this leak might be. And it's really difficult. You know, folks are in their morning commute. So oftentimes we'll either try to get there before everybody wakes up or go out at night so we can hear better and we don't have so much road traffic. So that happens. Then you have your underground service alert, and then you have your customer notification and your preparation. And then we get the crew together and we go out and we do the work. And so you can see kind of images, you know, both the VACON is working to suck out aggregate and the excavator's working. So we got folks at the same time kind of giving each other heads up. Hey, here's the service line. Hey, here's the, you know, we have kind of a bend going on here. Keep an eye out for this. So there's a lot of work, conversation all happening at the same time in the dark while we made use of the automatic traffic control trailers that we have. They do a great job. And you set those on a timer, and then, you know, it's unfortunately, it's like, I think this job was 7 minutes, and then they would allow folks to go by. So we kind of developed a line here. Zach? Gotcha. Oh, perfect. Okay, so here we are with kind of the very last effort on the left. You know, Zach, and I think that is Joe, sucking out the last of the base rock to expose the service line and the collar in the image on the right. And so then what's called a corporation stop will go in, which has a valve on it. So theoretically in the future, if this thing were to spring another leak, you could go down right to that valve and shut the whole thing off. But currently there's no isolation valve there. So we placed that length of service lateral out to what's then called the curb stop. And what happens on Copper Cove is we have some of these service lines that are in place and they're hot, they're charged with water, but they're serving an empty lot. So that was the case with this. So we were able to reestablish the service, put the curb stop in, and then live to fight another day. And then, you know, a lot of flushing due to the manganese and the naturally occurring manganese in the water supply. Whenever we shut things down, we enter air, or we have the unfortunate opportunity to possibly allow air to enter the system, we're going to get some dirty water. So then we work and we flush all of that out, and then we restore the line back to service.
I've got a question about.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
But it looks like that you call that a corp stop?
Well, that looks like it's just a flare directly into the coupling. So what we'll replace that with is a corp stop. So it'll have the replacement valve will have or the replacement part will have a valve in it.
So I guess the original distribution line coming off there, it came off in the same spot.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And you were able to put a new line into that, the original penetration.
That's
into the
correct.
coupling?
Yep. And then, so what you're looking at here is threaded right into the coupling of the two AC mains, just a direct threaded connection. So we're able to unthread that. And oftentimes what would fail, and what happens on some of the services in Rancho is those threads will fail. And so then it becomes a difficult work effort. We may have to cut out the coupling, and then we would connect to both sides of the main and then put in a tap.
So that must be a 10-inch main, or just if that's
it's 8.
8, okay. And the couplings come pre-threaded.
Yeah. Well, those were. So those are threaded and often epoxied, if I remember correctly. So this
But-
is 1970s vintage right here.
But you call it an AC pipe, is it?
Asbestos cement. Yep.
That also known as Techite or something, or?
No, this is, I mean, this is pretty reliable, sturdy pipe, actually. AC pipe is pretty good pipe. Not anything like the Techite.
Okay, but the coupling came from the manufacturer, threaded and ready for this type of installation? Is that?
Yes, so the couplings that we use to replace this infrastructure, yes, it's ready to go. And we, we would.
But the 1970s version was not, it didn't come from the manufacturer?
It was, no, there's no valve there.
Mm,
Right,
okay.
yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yes, right.
Right, and then the vertical pipe going down there, that's just the VACCON.
That's right, that's
socket.
right. That's exactly right, yeah. Good stuff.
Are you done with that hole yet?
Well,
Any questions about that hole?
Well, it's my district. Yeah.
Here's another good hole in Copperopolis. This one was,
Nothing about the geology or anything?
Yeah, what was it? Did you find?
we can show you some man-made geology in this work. So this was this project.
Move on to another hole.
Yeah, this was an emergency that went late into the night. A sewer line was,
Whoa.
there was a boring machine that tagged a coupling on a sewer line by lift station 15. And so the district found itself having to scramble to respond to a sewer line leak and make a repair. You see that the gap vacs came over from the Rancho crew to provide assistance. You can see the gray truck in the image, or actually that's the vac on. And then I think the next, here's the gap vacs, the image on the left there. And then the man-made geology in the image on the right. So if you take a look down there at you see that angled fitting and you see water spurting out of it. So that's where the boring machine hit the pipe right at the ductile iron fitting. And I think it was right on the edge of the ductile iron fitting, right? Yeah, so in plastic and in ductile kind of. So we knew at that point we have to cut it out. But what took a long time is getting through all that slurry. So you can see, it was quite an effort to jackhammer out all that slurry. I think you guys were there until 2 a.m. I think we got the call at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Wow.
Yeah, so and use the Mini X. You can see the image on the left, the water squirting out, the vac on or gap vac snorkel, and then the bucket from the Mini, and then all of that slurry.
How do those boring machines, do they get through that slurry pretty good?
From what we heard, it was hard. But they were just plowing right through. Yeah. Oh, it was. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then the image on the right is when the pipe was cut. And so that was great controversy, at 12 o'clock at night, is how much head pressure do you have coming back at your sewer? If you're going to cut this pipe now, or are we going to wait and let this thing drain out of that failure hole? We're going to cut this thing and we're going to be ready with the vac on to make sure it doesn't flow out of the hole. And so. Right.
Oh, wow. I just want to comment on the two trucks. They're beautiful. They're
They are.
absolutely beautiful. And I know that,
And that matters. It makes you,
oh, yeah, absolutely.
you look good, you play good.
Uh-huh. And you're equipped.
That's right.
We made sure that you're.
Oh, no, the board has given us some phenomenal tools to get the work done. The greatest thing here too is we have folks that have the expertise, and then we have the tools that we can get the job done. And we're not, crying uncle and saying, we're done. We need some bigger outfit to come figure it out for us. We can actually, you have given us the tools to do the work, and we have the crews that will.
It just makes such a difference when you own your own stuff and you have access to it.
It's,
right. I mean, even in my line, you can't own everything, but God, it's nice to have enough. I mean, it's just so much better than having to try to find something to rent or have somebody come and, show up and do your backhoe work or.
Right.
It's great.
It makes all the difference in the world.
It does. It really does. And so the image on the left here is you can see the repair. So we have a mechanical coupling and then what's called a high max, and then backfilling. So, started off at about 1 o'clock and worked through, I think everyone got home and showered and left the boots on the porch by about 2 in the morning. So it was a testament to all those, and it was part of the engineering department. We had collections crew members, we had distribution crew members, and it's just great work. So that work will be incorporated in your fall, yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned geology. It looks like that geology there might be like a two-sack mix
Yes,
backfill or something.
that's exactly right. Slurry, yeah. Man-made geology, yeah.
Okay.
So can't say enough great things about the electrical crew we have. So emergency, we lose a transducer in our main distribution system tank for the Jenny Lind water system. It has to be replaced because that's how we calculate how to turn the plant on. The plant turns on based on the water level in a tank. So, and the plant might not shut off based on the water level of a tank. So it's critical that we replace the transducers as they fail. And so the image on the left is the new transducer before it goes into the tank. You see the image on the right, staff up on top of the A tank over there in Rancho. Exhaust fans, critical, especially up in the snow load area where you might be bringing in generator fumes into a building. You got folks trying to work. You can see that one isn't very old. It's, probably was put in last year, maybe. No, actually, it's quite old.
I think Russ said some of those saved. I think he put them in his house.
Yeah.
I had you see my finger.
So you can go from, work on the electrical crew, go from replacing an exhaust fan like that to working on the SCADA system, loading a new system associated with the new filter at the West Point water plant. And you can see looking at the SCADA screens, making sure all the set points are working. They turn pumps on, they turn pumps off. They're accurately reporting volumes. And then, if you're at Huckleberry lift station and the generator's having issues and you're an electrician and you're handy and you call the mechanics and they say, oh yeah, it's that, that radiator hose or it's that, that jacket heater hose, go ahead and replace it. You do, and you put the system back online. And so that's what's going on here is the mechanics were en route and electricians were there troubleshooting what the heck went wrong. Why isn't the generator running out this radiator hose? So make a replacement and get back on the road. And this is great when you have lightning. A lot of folks are like, oh man, that lightning storm was beautiful. Well, oftentimes it will knock out parts of the brains of treatment facilities. And so the PLC at the Jenny Lind water plant all of a sudden found itself not understanding that it had to backwash the filters. And so our electricians have the ability to reload programming into the programmable logic controller that controls the facility and remind it, oh yeah, you have to backwash and here are the level of the backwash bonds and please resume working effectively. As a former water treatment operator, I can tell you that is very scary when all of a sudden the treatment plant's like, I don't know who I am anymore.
You know what would be interesting is just to go back 20 years ago as to how we operated by site.
That's right.
Right? We had to drive out there.
That's right.
And I don't think people get how much, not only is the technology, regulations have changed, but the technology that allow us to do things from a laptop instead of from the seat of a Ranger.
That's right.
It's really pretty incredible.
It has
come this far.
Yeah.
Just too bad the cybersecurity attacks had to come along with that.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Damon.
Okay,
Very nice.
thank you, Damon.
Sorry to rain on that parade. You're right. It is.
Stop it.
It is.
Always negative. Always negative.
And I like, Damon, how you described how polite the backup is when they upload the PLC to, hey, here's just a gentle reminder of how you operate this plant.
Okay, going on to general manager's report.
Okay, couple of outreach items from last week. Damon and I presented at the Sons in Retirement meeting, which was great. About 100 people, maybe, would you say, in that room? Very, very positive presentation up there and some good discussion afterward as well. I gave a presentation at the Chamber of Commerce State of the County event on Friday. And then afterwards, Senator Alvarado Gill was there, and we met with her for about an hour on Friday with Director Thomas and Director Ratterman, Director Davidson. Very positive meeting with her. And I had, we had a Region 3 board meeting yesterday, and I commented to some of the other board members on Region 3 that I could tell they'd been talking to her already, and that she's really listening and understanding what the critical issues for our water agencies are. She was really impressive. I think we have an ally there. We have been participating in the dam safety inspections for the Norfolk project. Usually they try to overlap the DSOD inspections and the FERC inspections, so because each one does a 2-day inspection. This year it was 2 days of FERC, and then the next week 2 days of DSOD. But between operations and engineering staff, we made sure we had a CCWD representative there for each of those days, monitoring our Norfolk project. We've had a lot of committee meetings, engineering committee last week, finance committee, and external relations this week. Next week, we have legal affairs, and also an UMRA meeting next week, and the Pardee annual barbecue is next week as well. And I want to thank, since I think he's still online here, Francisco and Mike Rogers both shared a really great presentation with us yesterday at external relations on some suggestions they have on performance measures and the tracking of performance, tracking and reporting out of performance measures. So we'll be working with them to follow up on that. But it's just great that they took the time to do that. We've been spending a lot of time with Brad. I think he left already. Didn't he? I think I mentioned that already earlier, but just a lot of download from Water Resources to the folks that are going to step up in his absence. So that's been a big work effort over the last couple of weeks. And the White Pines Park Committee met last week. Thank you, Director Underhill, for being there. The big item we have for them right now is the Thule removal that is about to take place up there. October 2nd, still on track?
I thought it was the 6th.
October 2nd. I think we're going to push some outreach out on that as well to make sure people know that we'll be out there removing those tules, primarily at the spillway. Do you guys know yet if we're going to be able to hit some other areas, or is it mainly just spillway?
Spillways are main focus, but
Okay. And then just got the Aqua officer and board election results. So Kathy Green will be the next Aqua president, and Ernie Avila the next vice president, as the candidates that we supported. I'm sure that's why it came out that way.
They won, right?
And I'll be on the Region 3 board again, which is not news, but it is news that Jessica Self will also be joining me on the Region 3 board. And so that's fantastic. Yeah, I'm really glad that she'll be able to join that board. And just other than that, a lot of staff turnover with a lot of vacancies right now. So busy with HR trying to fill those positions. So we have multiple recruitments out right now, and a few more that will be out shortly.
Are all your recruitment letters out for all the spots that we have open, or?
Not all of the vacancies right now. We're still kind of evaluating a couple of different positions to figure out the best way to cover that work effort, and whether we fill the positions the same way they were before or not. So we're still having a few of those discussions with a few of the positions, but we have several positions out right now that we would like to get filled as soon as possible.
Okay, have you done any interviews for like external, not, what's that?
External Affairs Manager, we have not.
Yeah.
No, not yet. We'll keep you posted on that.
Okay.
That was it.
That concludes. Okay. All right. How about we have board reports starting over there with you.
Do you want to start with me
Mhm.
at to your left? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's where you are.
Okay. We
Both
did
physically and otherwise. So.
We did have a great external relations committee meeting yesterday. It was, really, Russ, it was really a very meaty meeting, and I think what we'd like to do is continue to use the external relations in conjunction with the ratepayer advisory task force instead of forming a new committee. We don't need to form more committees. Does that,
Makes sense. Yeah.
that sounds good? And, you know, we'll see if everybody else is willing to join us. Up at White Pines. I don't know if you heard, I just heard last night that a horse died.
Yeah.
And I hadn't heard that one.
What?
Yeah, thank you to operations staff for responding to that over the weekend. There's always something going on. That was a first for me to get
Yeah.
a call on the weekend saying there's a dead horse in one of our water supply sources. But
Wasn't in a hole in Copperopolis. Russ doesn't care about.
yeah. Probably one down there too,
But that was my horse.
but no, fortunately it was removed quickly and there's no water supply issue there.
Okay. A woman got trapped in the bathroom at White Pines Park and they had to call in help to get her out.
Oh no, I didn't hear that one.
Yeah, that was. And then unfortunately, we all heard about that fell up at Evans Pass who got lost, Greg Brumman. And so his car had been parked out in White Pines.
But he was found.
Yeah,
Happy
no,
ending.
no, right. But anyway, that's what we're exciting up the hill. As I say, I'm anxious to use the external relations because while the iron is hot, we've got to, you know, make moves on our customer relations. I think it's very, very important looking at, you know, the increase in the rates and everything and making sure that our customers are heard. And so I'll be, you know, asking about that and what we can do. I did find a couple of, and I'm sure everybody has these things about ATCA offering utility bill assistance and weatherization. These are out there and, you know, we should make sure
Out
that.
there where?
Oh. In all the.
Bulletin boards.
Yeah, and I think we have some in our lobby here as
Okay.
well. Yeah.
I'll take some to put in Mountain Ranch.
Yeah, yeah.
And the customer assistance program not being full too. So if you hear from ratepayers that low income ratepayers that need assistance, make sure to refer them to customer service.
Uh-huh. And we did receive this, or did use this water wastewater utility performance metrics in our committee meeting yesterday, and I thought it was great. This was the one that Francisco does.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think all board members should get a copy of this. I think.
Yeah, I would, oh, actually, I did get it there.
Uh-huh.
I have it.
It has some good information.
Mhm.
So other than that, just my horse dying that's a shot. Okay.
And kidding aside, I know there were some people that were really upset about that.
Oh,
so
yeah.
condolences to the family that lost a horse.
Uh-huh. Well, thank goodness, because it was just a 13-year-old girl, I think was that who's riding the horse? So fortunately,
Not
they got
sure.
her right away.
That's
Okay,
too bad.
that's it.
All right, Director Davidson, do you have anything?
I just want to relay the comments about our meeting with our senator.
Right.
I mean, I really just seem to get the fact that, you know, she mentioned that she has 12 or 13 counties that she represents, 1,000 special districts like us that are all struggling, you know, and the one thing I think that we were able to, we didn't have to convince her, she already had it in frame of mind was they have to set some population limits on some of these regulations that the urban areas can accomplish, but the rural areas like us, we just do not have, you know, the ratepayers to do all that stuff. And she really seemed to get that part. Also, she's certainly interested in fire prevention, catastrophic wildfire. She seems to be, you know, really motivated to help us. And I was just delighted to have the conversation that we had with her. I really felt, you know, confident and, you know, and together on most of those issues that we care about. So it was very helpful. When is the Legislative Affairs Committee?
Next Tuesday, I believe.
Okay, I leave on Thursday for New Mexico until the 11th, and I may be back sooner, but that's the time slot. But
Yeah,
and
right now it's
we have a
scheduled
meeting
for
the
the-
11th.
The third
Yeah.
Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah, well, I think I can make the legal affairs, but I'm leaving the morning of the 5th. So just heads up. But that's very cool.
Do you have an alternate for Umra? Is that Scott?
Oh, yeah, no, I need, yeah, I believe Scott is the alternate, and obviously I can't make it. For
Okay,
that.
yeah, we'll let
And
him
I
know.
feel like we've got, there is some, a big grant on that agenda, if I'm not mistaken, that we need to solidify, so,
Okay, we'll let Director Adamman know to,
okay.
hopefully he can be there.
I don't know if I can call into that one or not, but I'll,
Probably not with the
it's gonna
new,
be outside, I think.
with the new Brown Act rules.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Your turn.
So this week I'm the alternate for engineering and external relations. So I attended or listened in, I should say, on those meetings. And I really want to thank Francisco and Mike for that presentation. I wish I could have been here in person, but it was a great presentation. And I'm really glad that the committee is going to work with Francisco and Mike, and staff is going to do that. And I think they just a great presentation. So thank you, Francisco and Mike and staff. I know you're going to be participating as well. I did not attend the IRWM last week. And other than that, that's it.
Okay, like Jeff, I was really very, very pleased with the way the senator listened to us and had conclusions already in her mind. And gosh, it was, I mean, I told her at the end that I was thinking about going to change my voter registration. I might become a Democrat if they were all like that.
All like her, yeah.
Yeah.
What?
But it was really kind of refreshing to hear her express the same viewpoint about the California Air Resources Board, that they can't be serious. They have to recognize the limitations that we have in our rural area. And it was also very commendable that Dana Jorgensen, I mean, he's been a fixture in this area for a long, long time.
Rico all the time.
Yeah.
Back with Rico.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and she is certainly not lost on her that he's a wealth of knowledge and has people's numbers on his speed dial from 20 years ago that it's really, I mean, she has accomplished apparently quite a lot in the first year that she's been in office. So it's really quite remarkable. So, and I also wanted to express my appreciation for Mike and Mike Rogers and Francisco de la Cruz. When I first encountered Francisco, he was sitting out here and he was expressing some stuff that really seemed like to me that he might not be very I don't know, very proud of our performance, and it just is really very refreshing that he and Mike came with an attitude that we're here to help, and I really want to take advantage of that sentiment and that willingness. I was kidding them that I was telling them that we might not be able to afford your consulting efforts, but anyway, I think it's going to come with no cost associated with it. Okay, well that's all I wanted to report, but I'm curious about, we have this 5:30 meeting listed here on October the 11th. Is that the first of?
Russ, that's just on your copy.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, okay. But let's talk about that. This is not, we can't make any decision on this now, but I think a future agenda item, we need to talk about scheduling one evening meeting per quarter, just to see what, if people will take advantage of that and come and participate. So,
We'll put that on the agenda.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would
for
be a
next week.
policy change. We'd have to change the policy.
Thank you.
Are you going to suggest we do that on a trial basis to see how it's gonna be? Maybe we do it for 6 months or,
Let's take it up when we have it agendized and
okay,
we can, decide those questions.
all right, and so getting back to that, our next meeting will be Wednesday, October the 11th at 1 o'clock as usual. And then the following meeting will be Wednesday, October the 25th, also at 1 o'clock as usual. And with that, we need to go into a closed session. Is that correct?
Yes.
Conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to subdivision D2 of Government Code Section 54956.9, two potential cases. And we'll be back to report if we have anything to report. Public comment? Public comment?
Thank you, Rebecca.
Is that a recorded message?
We should have it flashing.
Yeah. Okay, thanks everybody for coming in. What?
We have a
We have a hand up. Francisco,
Oh, good.
go ahead.
Yes, I was gonna suggest that if you, I don't know if you make the meeting available on recording, but I was gonna suggest that somebody take time to edit Damon's presentation and kind of use it for future references to how to keep the public informed of what y'all do. We'd like to set something up so that people know ahead of time that Damon's crews are gonna be out there and when and all of that. And this would help them see in their own way what's being done to benefit their particular areas. I thought it was a great presentation, and I'm sorry that not many more people are able to see it unless we edit it and make it available on the website, for example, or maybe we start a YouTube channel called CCWD and you. Anyway, that was my comment. Thank you.
I definitely support the editor.
oh.
Yeah.
Oh, Francisco, great idea.
His presentations.
Okay, was that concludes your comments, Francisco?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for the time.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. I'm gonna go use the restroom. real quick.
Okay.
Brett quit, that's the deal. Brett quit.
Rick.
Brett.